What if I told you that brushing your teeth, scrolling Instagram, or drinking coffee isn't really a choice? It's a loop your brain runs automatically? And what if the same brain wiring that makes you procrastinate could also make you unstoppable? That's the hidden power of habits, and James Clear's Atomic Habits reveals how to use it. Before James Clear became one of the world's leading experts on habits, he faced an accident that nearly ended his life. In high school, a baseball bat struck him directly in the face. The injury was so severe that he suffered broken bones, swelling in his brain, and months of painful recovery. Doctors weren't even sure if he would ever live a normal life again. But during that recovery, James discovered something powerful. Small, consistent steps were the only way forward. He couldn't rebuild his health or his focus overnight. Instead, he had to stack tiny improvements, exercising for just a few minutes, reading a few pages, making small adjustments each day. Over time, those little habits compounded into something extraordinary. Years later, James turned those lessons into research and a career. He studied psychology, human behavior, and performance, and eventually he captured everything he learned into one book, Atomic Habits. Today, it's sold millions of copies worldwide and is considered one of the most practical guides to changing your life through small, repeatable actions. Every habit begins with a cue, a small trigger that tells your brain it's time to act. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't suddenly wake up and decide out of nowhere. The real cue is the feeling of morning breath or the sight of your toothbrush. James Clear calls this the invisible architecture of habits. If you want to build a new habit, you don't need more motivation. You need a clearer cue. The more obvious the cue, the more likely the habit sticks. In the book, James shares how he wanted to drink more water. Instead of relying on willpower, he simply placed water bottles in every room of his house. Now, whenever he walked into a room, the cue was obvious, and drinking water became automatic. I tried this myself with reading. I used to tell myself, I'll read more before bed, but it never happened. Then I placed a book directly on my pillow every morning. By the time I got to bed at night, the cue was waiting for me. No thinking, no deciding, and guess what? I ended up reading almost every night. If you want to start a habit, don't depend on memory or motivation. Make the cue so obvious that you can't miss it. Want to work out? Put your gym clothes on your chair the night before. Want to eat healthier? Keep fruits on the kitchen counter instead of cookies. The lesson here is simple. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your cues. Make the right cue, and the habit will follow. If a cue is the spark of a habit, then craving is the fire that keeps it alive. A habit only sticks if your brain finds it attractive. Think about scrolling Instagram. The cue might be a notification, but what makes you open the app again and again is the craving, the little dopamine hit of likes and comments. James Clear explains that one way to build good habits is through something called temptation bundling. It's simple. Pair something you need to do with something you want to do. One man loved watching Netflix, but he wanted to exercise more. So he set up his stationary bike in front of the TV and only allowed himself to watch Netflix while pedaling. Suddenly, working out wasn't a chore. It was the price of admission to his favorite show. I tried this with studying. I wanted to review my notes, but honestly, I found it boring. So I bundled it with music. I created a playlist. I only play when I study. Over time, my brain started to look forward to studying because it meant I got to hear those songs. The craving was no longer for the music alone. It was for the study session itself. If you're struggling to build a habit, don't rely on discipline. Make it attractive. Pair it with something you enjoy. Want to go for a walk? Save your favorite podcast or audiobook only for that time. Want to cook healthy meals? Do it while listening to your favorite music. The principle is simple. We repeat what feels good. If you can make a habit feel rewarding from the start, you'll want to come back to it again and again. Here's a truth we often ignore. People don't fail because they lack motivation. They fail because the habit's too hard. James Clear says if you want to stick to a habit, you have to make it easy. Not ambitious, not perfect, just easy enough that you can't say no. This is where the famous 2-minute rule comes in. Want to build a reading habit? Start by reading just one page. Want to run every morning? Start by putting on your running shoes. The goal isn't to finish the marathon on day one. The goal is to make showing up effortless. I tested this with journaling. I used to buy fancy notebooks and tell myself I'd write a full page every night. I always failed. Then I switched to a rule. Just write one sentence a day. That's it. Most days, once I wrote one sentence, I ended up writing more, but the pressure was gone. Making it easy was the key. If you're struggling with consistency, shrink the habit until it takes less than 2 minutes. Want to meditate? Just sit on the cushion and take one deep breath. Start with adding one vegetable to your plate. Want to write a book? Don't want to write a book? Commit to writing one sentence a day. The principle is simple. Make it easy to start, and the rest will follow. And the rest will follow. Once a habit is in motion, momentum does the heavy lifting. Every habit you repeat delivers one thing in common, a reward. That reward might be relief, pleasure, or just the satisfaction of crossing something off your list. Without it, the brain says, why bother? James Clear explains that if you want to make a habit last, you need to make it satisfying. Because our brains are wired for instant gratification, we repeat what feels good right now, not what will pay off months later. James talks about habit tracking. Imagine you want to build the habit of flossing. Every time you floss, you mark it on a calendar with a big red X. That little streak of red X's becomes a reward in itself. You don't want to break the chain. The act of tracking becomes satisfying, and the habit becomes sticky. I tried this with workouts. I wasn't motivated by the long-term goal of getting fit, but I created a simple tracker on my wall. Each day I worked out, I gave myself a green check mark. Watching those marks stack up was weirdly addictive. Some days I didn't want to exercise at all, but I didn't want to ruin the streak. That tiny reward kept me going. If you want to lock in a habit, give yourself an instant reward. Cross it off. Check a box, track a streak. Make the habit enjoyable in the moment. Pair it with music, a nice environment, or even a small treat. Remember, the faster the brain feels rewarded, the faster the habit will stick. The principle is simple. What's immediately rewarded is repeated. What's immediately punished is avoided. If you want a habit to survive, make it satisfying. The 4 laws are the backbone of atomic habits. But James Clear also shares a few powerful extra ideas that make this book unforgettable. 1. Identity-based habits. Most people focus on outcomes. I want to lose weight. I want to write a book. But James says the real secret is to shift your identity. Don't just say, I want to run a marathon. Instead say, I am a runner, because every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. Habits aren't just about doing, they're about becoming. 2. The plateau of latent potential change often feels invisible at first. You can work out for weeks without seeing results, or write for months without recognition. James calls this the plateau of latent potential. Like heating an ice cube from 25 degrees to 31 degrees, nothing seems to happen until suddenly at 32 degrees it melts. The lesson: tiny improvements compound quietly, then explode into visible results. 3. The Goldilocks rule. Humans love challenge, but only if it's not too easy or too hard. James explains that the best habits live in that sweet spot. Not overwhelming, but not boring either. If it's just the right amount of stretch, you'll stay motivated and engaged. For me, the identity shift was huge. I stopped saying I want to be productive. Instead, I started telling myself I'm the kind of person who doesn't miss his study sessions. That tiny shift changed the way I acted because I didn't want to break my identity. Ask yourself, who do I want to become? Then let your habits be small votes for that identity. Remember, even if progress feels invisible, you might just be 1 degree away from a breakthrough. And finally, design your habits so they challenge you, but don't crush you. We've explored the 4 laws of behavior change and some extra insights. But how do you actually put all this into practice starting today? Here's a simple 3-step plan from Atomic Habits that anyone can follow. 1. Choose one habit. Don't try to change your whole life in 1 week. Pick one small habit that matters to you. It could be journaling for 2 minutes, drinking 1 glass of water in the morning, or reading 1 page at night. Keep it simple. 2. Apply the 4 laws cue. Make it obvious right arrow, put a visual reminder where you'll see it. Craving. Make it attractive right arrow, pair it with something you enjoy. Response. Make it easy right arrow, shrink it down to 2 minutes or less. Reward. Make it satisfying right arrow, track your progress or celebrate the win. Focus on identity, not outcomes. Instead of saying, I want to read 30 books this year, say, I'm the type of person who reads every day. This way, your habit is no longer about chasing goals. It's about reinforcing who you are. You are. When I tried this, I started with just 1 micro habit, writing 1 sentence each day. Within weeks, that single sentence grew into full pages. The key wasn't discipline. It was lowering the bar so I could never fail, and then letting momentum carry me forward. Start small, but stay consistent. 1 small win today is better than a big plan you'll abandon tomorrow. Build tiny habits, and they'll compound into a lifestyle you don't even have to think about. Here's the truth. Life doesn't change in giant leaps. It changes in tiny, invisible steps that compound over time. That's the real magic of Atomic Habits. If you remember nothing else from this video, remember this. Small habits aren't just small actions. They're votes for the kind of person you want to become. So ask yourself, what's 1 small habit you can start today that your future self will thank you for? It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be consistent. And if you found this summary helpful, I've got more book breakdowns and self-improvement lessons coming your way. So hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and drop a comment below with the habit you're starting today. Who knows, your idea might inspire someone else here to begin their journey too. Remember, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. So build the right ones, and your goals will take care of themselves.